nice to see you. Thank you for having us. How awesome was Andy Cohen? Hilarious. It's like AI is going to kill us all. Great. So today we're here to talk to you about customer experience and how it's really important to build up your customers in order to build up your team in order to build the customer experience. So with that, for anybody who's familiar with the Breakfast Club, this is a quick reference to that. But ultimately, without training, process, and practice, teams are not empowered to take care of your customers. And so it's pretty crucial that we have that enabled. I'd like to see a quick show of hands. Show me if you've been part of a team training or enablement session within the last 12 months within your company. Oh, I love this. Okay. And we can also think of this event too, right, as another way to nurture your career development, your networking, et cetera. So that's good to see. What we typically find, though, is that a lot of investment in customer success enablement is unmatched compared to what sales enablement receives. So it's time to change that narrative, and thank you for all coming. We had a warm welcome already, but I'm Sabina. I've been a Chief Customer Officer. I have been a CSM and everything in between. And I love B2B SaaS. It's my sweet spot and passion. And I love that I get to work with Emilia and that we co-wrote a book.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today. Really excited to talk about this topic I'm so passionate about because when I started my career a very long time ago, CSMs definitely never had training. The only time I ever got to be anywhere near training is when the sales team would come ask me to speak at the SKO. And so we're here to change that story.
So with that, we will talk about the importance of time to first value for onboarding and what that has to do with enabling your teams. I'll get to that in a minute. And the importance of team enablement. And then lastly, some tips Emilia will take you through for what we mean by building up your team to build out the customer experience. So when we think about time to first value, it's really critical, we all know this, that onboarding really sets the tone and the expectation for what's to come. When we think about onboarding, we know that there's a 50% increase in customer retention and in revenue when you've properly onboarded your people. So what do we mean by onboarding? What we mean is the first experiences, the way that we think about self-paced training videos. Perhaps there's a professional services team that will actually take a team through data migrations. We'll have knowledge-based articles, in-app tools, perhaps live training sessions or self-guided in-app tooltips. These are some of the ways that teams help with the onboarding experience for customers, and it's really critical. Now in SaaS, we do a really good job of enabling our people on our internal processes typically, and on our own SaaS or services offerings that we give to our own customers. And when we're hiring, we're typically hiring for the skill set. We make the assumption that they have the skills to have the confidence to talk to a CEO, or that they have the confidence to talk to a procurement person if they're running a renewal cycle, for example. And that's not necessarily always the case. We have an example of a customer that we had the honor and pleasure of working with called Virtuous. And they had a need for customer journey mapping. They had a need for a customer onboarding project. They realized their onboarding NPS scores were really low. Their onboarding time took weeks, actually months. And then they also had a need to do a team enablement on the new processes and programs we launched. So with that, they saw a 63% reduction after this work and spending time enabling their people in their time to first value. And then additionally, what's really cool is they also had a 4% greater growth rate from their install base by way of expansions. So it was a really critical opportunity for them to take a minute to pause. They are a startup. They're about 15 million right now, and their team of CS was about 12. And so for them, they're running at warp speed. For them to stop and take the time to work with people to reinvigorate the program, and then most importantly, enable them. And everybody learns differently, and Emilia will talk about that in a little bit. So we broke it down in different ways for different styles of learning, and it made a big impact for them. Another case study is Talru, for example. So they're here. I don't know if we have anybody from Talru in the audience, but they are Gainsight customers as well. And we got to help them last year. They spoke about this particular case study, and they boosted productivity and revenue. There's a train going through here or something. Did you guys all hear the rain when we were in the keynote? Yeah, it was really heavy. All right, so they boosted productivity, and it did a pretty significant thing. So CSMs were able to do 3 times more proactive customer outreach than before. This was but twofold. It was by implementing Gainsight, which we helped them with their Essentials implementation, but more importantly, it was teaching their teams how to use the information that Gainsight gave them. It's great to have a predictive scorecard, but if you don't ultimately have the knowledge of what to do with the information, how to be nimble, how to think quickly on your feet, then that's going to fall flat. But the productivity increase, the adoption increase of their customers. So this work that we do is not just about us as companies self-serving our own efficiencies and productivity and profitability, but ultimately, most importantly, it should be about the customer, and they actually saw that. So the adoption was greater, and then as a result of the customer loyalty improvements also, they had a 25% increase in NRR. This all happened within 6 months after doing this work together. So I'm a big believer, we talk about it in conversation presentations. I talk quickly, I'm energetic. The power of the pause. The power of the pause is also critical in your business, but it's hard to take the time, but you gotta carve it out, focus on the big rocks. So the way that we do that is what we call an inside-out approach, right? So teams should be empowered with the essential skills to be able to drive the protection and growth of their revenue. And as I mentioned earlier, we're really quick to do that for our sales teams. There's actual sales enablement leaders that are functions in an organization. Yesterday, I had the honor of being part of the executive forum here at Pulse, and they did a quick poll. There was about 120 of us in the room. He said, raise your hand if you have a customer success operations team. About half the room, a little more than half the room, and they said, raise your hand if you have a customer success enablement team. And there was very few hands that were raised. We need to change that. We may not have the budget right now in this particular economy, in this climate, but there's an opportunity at least to be enabling your managers, the people managers, and as a leader, or if you're in sales ops, or if you're the Gainside admin, like there's opportunities to move the needle a little bit, and there's free tools and apps. We have a lot of guides on our website that are available to help with that motion. So by building up our team, you build out the customer experience. And Gallup says that teams are 6 times more likely to feel connected to your company, to your team, and your customers feel that when they're connected to you as a leader, when they're connected to the mission of your company and your department and your company's OKRs and how they roll up, and also when they're connected to the values. Does anybody know, can someone shout out here for me, what Gainsight's core value is? Childlike joy. Childlike joy is one. What's another one? It comes from within. Right, human first, you got it, yes. We all know that. They talk about it, we feel it as customers, as partners. I bought Gainsight years ago, and that's one of the reasons I still am a big fan. So if you can help the people be connected, not only as a vendor, but also as a partner, as a customer, as a teammate, it's gonna land a long way, and it's gonna go really far. So my 80s movie reference, another one here, is Field of Dreams. Has anybody seen this one? Baseball movie, right? If you build it, they will come. And so the idea here is build up your team to build out the customer experience. Take the time to nurture your people. It's important, invest in them, and make sure that they have what they need to be successful. So when companies do that well, there's 11% greater profitability. I've thrown out a lot of stats at you. There's your data drives decisions. It's critical, it's important, and if you need evidence to show your executive team, your leadership, your investors, your board, there's plenty of research out there, and I'm happy to give you more after this talk. Emilia is going to now give you some tips for team enablement at a more tactical level.
All right, I'll switch with you. All right, so today I'm going to give you 4 tips. We all know that if we don't enable our team, they're going to be reactive. And a reactive culture not only becomes toxic and creates low morale, it also is rubbed off on your customers. They feel that energy because your team's not enabled. And so the 4 tips I'd like to share with you, or habits that you can instill in your team, are 1, scenario-based training. Not enough companies do that. They just give general training. People want actual examples. Then action-based processes, right? Why am I learning this? What is in it for me? How can I make it actionable, all this jargon that you're throwing at me? 3rd, strengths. Not enough people celebrate them. We can't be good at everything. I always believe that even though I have an MBA, finance was definitely my least favorite class. The professor probably had a lot to do with it. But as a result, I surround myself with really smart, numbers-driven people so that they can make up for what I'm not as interested in. And then company-wide support for whatever it is. I know that a book came out from Snowflake saying customer success is everyone's job. No, it's not. You have to have an owner Everyone can be responsible for playing a piece of the customer's success, right? Product has a role, sales has a role, marketing, obviously customer success. Someone has to own that number. And then the 4 habits to start now, let's go a little deeper. When we talk about scenario-based training, what we mean is having an actual example during that training. So for our academy, no matter what course you take, our favorite probably to teach, Sabina spoke on this here 2 years ago, the art of no-jitsu. She actually wore her karate outfit. She's a
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo. She's
Get it straight, woman.
She's a black belt. And so she got on stage, taught the art of no-jitsu, but we used real life examples. What are your employees, your CSMs, battling every day? What do the customers want that your CSMs have to say no to? And so giving them actual examples and role-playing is incredibly powerful. In our academy, when people are role-playing, they have an opportunity to submit a video. And Annie, who heads up our education, is here. She always shares them with me. And it's so rewarding to see someone practice a really hard skill, right? Everything you're learning here today, you're going to forget in 30 days. So does your team after a CSKO. But if you keep role-playing, practicing what you've learned, especially the hard skills, they'll become more and more confident until they don't even have to think about it. It just becomes automatic. Next, action-based processes. What does that mean? Having things like playbooks. It's not enough to teach someone to do something. Actually having a plan. So when we do assessments and we ask during the assessment, what are the key moments that you can recognize or pinpoint success to, those renewal numbers, those expansion numbers? Sometimes there's a blank. The director or the leader of CS, not even the CEO, can tell us what the key moments in onboarding are that lead to repeatable, durable growth. So you have to have the playbooks, you have to have the metrics, you have to know what are the actions that are going to lead to that type of growth. And that's by not only leveraging data, right? We've heard all about AI, being able to pull in the right data, but also building a playbook around it. If someone hasn't downloaded your extension and you've been able to pinpoint that to 80% more renewals, why is anyone marked completed onboarding if they haven't downloaded the extension, right? So you have to have those playbooks in place and for your team to feel confident with them. Next, practice your strengths. One of my favorite things that we do at the end of every training curriculum when we're getting ready for certification, we ask everyone to go around and share what is their key strength, and we write it on a board so that everyone in the room knows what their colleagues are really good at, so that if they're not good at it, they can go ask for help. Maybe someone that you've hired comes from the industry you're selling to. Let's say education, they're former teachers, and you're not. You're coming into this ed tech and you're brand new to it. Go lean on those teachers to understand what are the pain points that we're selling to. They have those strengths. And a Gallup poll shows that people who celebrate their strengths, that give feedback in real time, are 8 times more likely to be successful in their role. People like to feel good about what they're doing, and it can be as simple as a quick Slack, hey, great job on that call and handling that difficult situation, right? And then last but not least, company-wide support. Every Friday when I was vice president, we would all the leaders would have to get up at happy hour. That started way too early. Everyone with their beer in their hand and celebrate something that was good, that happened, that was good on their team, whether it was product, engineering, customer success. And I said, why are only the leaders celebrating? Why are they telling the stories? I'm not going to get up every week. I'm going to give someone on my team an opportunity to get up on stage in front of everyone in the room and share their win, their celebration with the customer. what better way to learn than elevating your team and letting them share their win? That passion that comes out of their voice will be so much stronger than you sharing it on their behalf. So company-wide, we call them
like obsess over your customers.
obsess
meetings.
over your customers, yes.
Bring people together and talk
Exactly.
about those wins.
Exactly. It's not just about what sales is doing, which is, we always hear what sales is doing, but let's celebrate some customer wins too. And then last but not least, anticipate what your team needs, right? We're all using products like Update AI and others that are recording your calls. You can listen to them, you can share snippets, you can sense when there's the stuttering, the team, someone is not confident handling a difficult situation, for example. Make sure that you can anticipate what kind of training. And if you don't know, send an anonymous poll. Every time we do customer training for our clients, we ask if we can send an anonymous poll and ask them, what are the skills that you feel you're struggling with? What are things that you're not comfortable sharing with your manager that you wish you had in your tool belt? And allowing us to read that makes our own content so much stronger when we're training. So anticipate, ask what your team needs and give it to them in advance so that when they go talk to their customers, they're more confident. And with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I think we may have time for a couple questions. Oh, one moment. You need the mic. Is that right?
I'm on my way. Hands up
Okay.
nice and high. If you have a question, I'll bring the mic over to you. It won't go on the video if we don't put you on the mic.
We want you on the video.
Hi, my name is Justin. I'm a senior customer success manager at an IT tech software. We have a smaller CS team. Many of them have 10 to 15 years experience because that's what we've been hiring. And so they've gone through a lot of these things, but they've never gone through it at our company. Do you have any tips or tricks on how we can scale this for a smaller team to still kind of train people who have been trained before?
First of all, I believe in being a lifelong learner. So I don't care how senior you are. I know, everyone, Nick Maida, like everyone, we're still part of developmental efforts. So it doesn't matter if they're 15-year or 10-year. I hope that they have the learner's mindset. I think Shoshin is actually one of Gainsight's traits, right? To be a lifelong learner. But to the point that you have, if it's lean, how do you do it efficiently and at scale? Do you have a sales team? Are they being enabled with documentation? Get that documentation and start with that. And make a recommendation that for all company new hires, this is a lagging issue, but for new hires, have them go through the same type of training that sales does, especially if they're client facing. It's a good place to start.
I'll also add, we do teach small teams of 6 people, for example. I remember teaching in Austin, a company out of Boston had their SKO there. All sales, marketing, and customer success were learning together. And the sales leaders came to me and said, we don't need your training. We've been doing this for what you just said, 15 years. I said, no problem, check out. But if you check out, imagine what kind of lesson you're teaching your team. It's okay to be on your phone, to be working when you just invested all this money in their learning. So make sure that you're part of it and show them that if you are willing to invest in the learning too, they'll be far more interested and have that learner mindset.
And see if you can attend sales trainings, or even if there's not budget for all of your team, one of you go, be the ambassador. That person can come back in and help train, learn by teaching, train the trainer kind of a thing. Yes, people are busy. Yes, it's an extra piece, but sometimes that moment in the sun and them taking an extra project on also helps their career visibility and upward mobility there too. But I was a CS leader, global CS leader. I saw this big divide between sales and CS. I worked really hard to break that down. I became really good friends with my sales counterpart, ended up going to his wedding, that kind of friendship. And when they were going to be hiring a company to come in and do enablement, I fought really hard. I said, I want my team there too. And that's actually how I met Emilia. So she came and trained my team 6 or so years ago, and here we are now. Other questions?
I see you.
So we are in a really interesting phase. I'm Kat. I'm a CS
Can you speak up a little?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Kat. I'm a CS regional manager at Constructor.
Okay.
And so is Sarah here with me. So we're in a really interesting phase, and also why we're kind of here is because we're looking at not just adopting our team processes for the scale that we're reaching, but also focusing on enabling them as individuals while we move from like a one massive team to smaller groups of CSMs. And so we're an extremely customer-centric company, and we have almost 100% retention. And so we have a unique challenge, though, where it's not us versus like customer problems, it's us versus each other. And so, and some of that trickles down from our leadership. And so how would you recommend that we kind of encourage leadership to let us drive these smaller teams we're breaking out into and like relinquishing that control that they had always had over the whole CS org?
One thing that I've done that I loved, Emilia touched on it briefly, is the Clifton Strengths Finder. Have you done that before? Now, so what I did for every new hire, I personally, out of my own budget, I bought them the Clifton Strengths Finder book. And in that comes a unique URL code that you can go online and complete the strengths assessments. And so what I did was I had people buddy up who were, and this was during COVID, so it was a distributed workforce. So I sent them all the books through Amazon, and then I randomly assigned buddies. I checked to make sure they weren't in the same little pod together. And I encouraged them to do their own assessment and then send their assessment results for their 5 top key strengths to their buddy, and vice versa. And then they had to have a call together. So they did a pre-read, they had a call together, and then they had to present about the other person to the rest of the team on a team Zoom together. And the idea there was to kind of help just bring the human first element, break down the barrier. And then when we were in office for a while afterwards, I had the person's face and title at the beginning in the circle, and then all their 5 strengths around it. I had it printed out. It was on everybody's cubicle. So you're being reminded when you walk up to ask someone or to partner with someone on something what their strengths are. For example, mine and only one other in the entire company, we had WOO, which is winning others over. And we were always the ones planning the happy hours and all the fun things. And so we had an automatic connection, and we still do today. She was actually a client at Parallax. So it really bridges those bonds and creates a little way to break down some barrier. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it's a good place to start. It's relatively inexpensive. The book ranges from $9 to $16 on Amazon. Highly recommend it. Some people are now putting their strengths on LinkedIn in their About Me section, and it's really helpful to know where you have connection.